Hey. Happy Thursday, February 13th. I was going to say 14th, 2025. So these videos are a little more frequent because I have some new people here because of some things that I've shared. And I want you all to understand that when I share things, or when anybody shares things that's personal, that has affected them in a way, it is very, very, very insensitive and screams gaslighting when you ask somebody why they took so long to share something. Number one, if you listen closely, I usually am pretty detailed. Sometimes I go into too much detail, but I usually share my why because I am a why person. That's how I operate. I want to know why things, so I share my why because I know other people are why people too. But don't be insensitive. We have to stop thinking that just because somebody is in a position of authority that they are above reproach or error. And two things can be true. The person could have been operating in a way that's favorable in someone's life, and it could be unfavorable in another due to the way that they treat the person. Number two, if you've ever known of anybody or if you've experienced abuse, and any kind of abuse, emotional, physical, sexual, any kind of abuse, it is very difficult to talk about because people ask these insensitive questions like, why did it take you so long to say something? Just questions almost like you're doubting the person that experienced the abuse. And that's the reason why people take so long to say something, because people that say things like that, and you have no idea how long it took that person to come up out of that darkness to experience their reality, to come back to reality, because abuse does something psychologically to people. So be mindful of that, especially those of you that are Christians or Christ followers. Be a little more sensitive and understanding, because yes, the person that I may be speaking about may have been like, I've experienced great moments. I learned a lot. I loved that person like that person was my father. But at the end of the day, once the veil was taken off, once the idolatry was no longer existent, I saw things for what they were. And you have to understand that the tactics of people that abuse others make people second guess their reality. It makes people, some people, suicidal. It makes people turn away from God. And then when we have Christians that come in the comments and say certain stuff, you have no idea what they are dealing with psychologically still. It could be 20 years later. So be more sensitive, concerning, considerate. Pray for that person. You have no idea what kind of mental Olympics the person went through to even say what they needed to say openly. That's why you don't see a whole lot of stuff of people sharing their experiences when they got abused, whether it was in church, whether it was in families or whatever, because there are people that love that person. They have family members that haven't experienced what the abused person experienced. So two things can be true. Abusers can be good people to other people too. People that tell the truth can end up being liars. People that start off in the faith can end up in heresy. It's biblical, y'all. Just because somebody shares a bunch of truth and you watch a whole lot of videos or whatever, when I'm speaking specifically on from the video I just posted, just because of the things that you've seen, that does not mean that person is incapable of doing things that are ungodly. And that doesn't necessarily mean because I'm sharing things that I was a perfect person, because I was not a perfect person. I'm still a human, and I'm not dismissing anything that I've done, but I have flesh too. So there are things that I had done, but I will say that when people are abused, the abusers usually look for people that are vulnerable. So yeah, I will tell you though, everything works out in God's favor. He turns everything that was meant for bad for his good. Everything. So I learned a lot. Everything that I experienced, no, I didn't give a whole lot of detail. I don't have to explain to you, because those of you who will hold somebody in high regard and be inconsiderate of somebody else's feelings and what they've experienced, it's not going to matter what that person tells you, and whatever level of craziness or whatever it is that happened, you still will defend the abuser just because of how you place them in your life, in your mind, in your heart, whatever. Which is the reason why I say that idolatry is a real thing. Like, I was in idolatry too. I was there, y'all. My family was like, what is going on? They thought I was crazy, because I was defending that person just like y'all. Because for me, I didn't grow up with my father, and certain things, so because of that, and then family situations that I've experienced growing up and even into my adult life. So some abusers look for people. Abusers are usually people that are insecure, and so they use people. They do things and abuse people to for whatever reason, but they use vulnerable people. And a lot of people that were abused were vulnerable. A lot of people of the place that I spoke about were vulnerable. These are people that didn't have strong families. They had broken families. They had drug addiction in their families. They had parents that weren't there for them. Whatever it is, there was a void that was filled with these people, which is why people hold people in a high regard and all this stuff, on top of these people using, the abusers using scripture. It's no different than when the colonizers used the Bible against us. No different. So be more mindful of what you're saying. And I'm no longer in fear. And timing, what you may think and what you may think and whoever may think, timing is off and this and that and other, you thinking too much into it. You have no idea how long it took for somebody to become bold enough to speak out about what happened to them. And just because it's not in the time that you think it should have happened, you don't understand what they went through. So just be mindful, y'all. Be mindful. It's wild. A lot of the stuff that I experienced once my eyes were open, once the veil from my eyes were taken off, after I was no longer in idolatry. Oh man, I was praying and fasting and sharing stuff with people that weren't even saved and didn't necessarily have great relationships growing up with them, but they opened my eyes and was like, wait a minute, you are doing what you're supposed to do. Those people are doing, you have no idea certain things people said to me that broke that stronghold. So read your word, y'all. This is why I'm sharing this stuff. Read your word. Mourn with those who mourn. Rejoice with those who are rejoicing. Pray for people. Pray for people. We don't pray curses over people. We share stuff that happened because nobody is above reproach. Nobody. And like I said, two things can be true. So there's going to be people that are still members or are no longer members of the church that I mentioned, that that will still support that, because they didn't experience what I experienced, because some people were manipulated and bewitched because they have been given gifts and they were treated a certain kind of way. That's what you don't understand. It's a whole lot. It's a lot of layers, y'all. It's gonna come out though. Trust. It's gonna come out. But yeah, it's a lot of layers. But just be mindful, be respectful, and be prayerful, because a lot of people were hurt. A lot of people were hurt, and a lot of people are not gonna say anything because they don't want to deal with all the comments of y'all. They don't want to deal with that. Y'all, it's like a cult following. I was like that too. So I just ain't with the foolishness, but I'm not afraid either. So respectfully, I'm just, putting it out there. So until next time, like I say always, be blessed.